All right, well, welcome everyone to the next session in the Service Cloud track. This one's entitled Roundtable with the Service Cloud Pros. My name's John Joseph. As you can probably tell, I'm not from around these parts. I work in professional services for Salesforce over in Europe, hence the strange accent. I'll be moderating the session today. Let's just kick off and cover the slide that you all know back to front. Salesforce is a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol CRM. This is our safe harbor statement. We will, no doubt, in answer to your questions today, be covering non-released functionality. So please do make any purchase decisions based on currently released functionality. So this is a session that we run each year when we get very good feedback. And what it is people come armed to Dreamforce with questions based on issues they're having with their own systems. And then you're exposed to kind of 3 days of very exciting input from Mark and our executives, but also from seeing other customers up on stage in sessions like this, describing their implementations, issues they've had, solutions they've written. And this, no doubt, exponentially increases the potential questions that you may have. So what we do in this session is we've gathered together a host of experts from around Salesforce itself, and the objective is to make this session pretty much 100% Q&A from yourselves. So there are no real slides, there's no direct communication from us to you in advance. It's all driven by questions that you may want to ask. And those questions could be of various types. They could be a particular issue you're having with your implementation now. It could be an implementation issue. It could be a product issue. It could have maybe it's something new that you want to try out, but you're not quite sure how to go about it. So the objective is to try and take those questions from you and get you the answer that you're looking for. So it's very rare that we get an esteemed group of experts around the table like this. This is your big chance to ask that question that you probably couldn't get without paying for me to come and answer the question on a daily rate that we won't go into. So let's just introduce the panel. I'll just, again, state that I work for Salesforce in Europe, and I help implement systems for customers. I understand their requirements, run workshops, and then analyze, design, and build the system to meet their requirements. So that's kind of my specialty in life. Mike.
Hi guys, Mike Milburn. I run the Service Cloud practice for consulting.
Hi guys, Monty Mavi. So I lead a sales engineering team here at Salesforce, which primarily focuses on Service Cloud. So I'm looking at some familiar faces, which I've talked to you at the pre-sale side of the opportunity. Looking forward to answer some of the questions you might have in post-sales now.
Are you sure you want to do that?
Let's check out the experts. Yeah.
I'm Marco Castellana. I am one of the product managers of the Service Cloud. I focus primarily on the call center agent experience side of the house. And you may know me from the blog. I write the service and support blog also. And I am Werewolf on the forums.
My name is Chet Sherhan. I focus on the self-service and some of the social capabilities of Service Cloud. Yeah, he does all the hard stuff. So if you've got the hard questions, we're going to get.
And I'm Olivier Pain. I'm the product manager for the knowledge application.
Cool. Let's jump through some slides here. Don't need. So we're going to open up the floor for questions. What I would ask is that you actually walk up to one of the two microphones on the two sides of the room, and if you can just state your name, role, and company, and if it's appropriate, maybe your industry. We're going to assume that you're using the Salesforce Enterprise or Unlimited editions. So if you're not using one of those editions, please let us know so we can answer the question appropriately. And to try and encourage you to ask some questions, unlike other sessions you may have been to, I've come armed with some bribes. So I've got some Starbucks gift cards. So we'll give those to the first few questions that are asked, and then maybe to the really good questions. So is there anyone who would like to kick off the session and ask a question?
I'll kick off. I love Starbucks, so thanks. I'm Kathleen Bean. I'm Operations Program Manager at VMware. I've actually spoken with several of you on the phone and in person, so thank you for supporting us during our evaluation process. We are in the high-tech industry, software company. We have 925 potential users for Service Cloud, so we're clearly not using it today. The question I had is around our partner group. So we have a number of authorized service providers that provide support to our customers on our behalf. And I'm curious about the different deployment options to that community so that we can ensure we have secure access and protect our data and intellectual property.
Want to start from the product side, and then we'll take it to the services side?
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about it. So we have, we have a pretty good solution around that. So first of all, if your partners are using Salesforce, then we have this unique capability called Salesforce to Salesforce, right? Which is actually really unique because that's can only be enabled in a multi-tenant platform. So you can actually, for example, share cases with them, and they can work on the cases, and then you can actually, sync them back so you can see, you can see what they worked on and the status of those cases and report on that and all of that. But obviously, if your customers are not using Salesforce, you could use our partner portal capability, which is basically it's a portal that partners can go to, and again, they can have access to cases. They can actually manage the cases. Shortly, they'll also be able to access the new knowledge base that we've released. The new, we bought a company called Instranet about a year ago, and we recently made it available on our platform, literally about 2 weeks ago, and that will also be available in the partner portal as well. So those are the two options.
A question for you, actually. What's your support process? Is Tier 1 support handled by partners, and then they hand it off to you? Is that what the process is?
We do both, and actually I was going to ask, so we have both types of partners, some that provide full support and then some that just do level 1 and level 2 and pass the level 3 to us. And I would assume I can also give them logins directly to Salesforce if that's appropriate, as long as I pay for it, right?
Yeah, so definitely. We would like you to do it because then you're paying more to us. But if you go with our PRM solution, which is the Partner Relationship Management, that's a place where your partners would log in. Yeah. And you have the security built in where you can say, okay, here's partner XYZ, and these are the 5 joint customers we have. The benefit you get there is they can come in, they log in, they can log a ticket where they're working on it themselves as Tier 1s, but at some point they identify either I've resolved the issue or I need help from VMware, and they can just click on escalate, it gets to you, you guys work on it. Then you decide based on your process, do we need to communicate directly with the end customer, or do we go back and give the answer to the partner, and then partner communicates it to the customer. So we have a complete tool for that. The process is built in there, and that can be supported.
For the record, PRM and partner portal are the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you.
Very shortly, you saw the Cisco announcement that we released in October, where we're going to be partnering with Cisco on a telephony product, and we're going to use STAS for that as well. So we're going to be eating our own dog food proverbially at that time.
Yeah, and in fact, actually, VMware and Cisco are using Salesforce to Salesforce for they're doing a private cloud product. Yeah, so.
Lots of clouds.
Okay, next
That's
question.
Starbucks card. That was the easy one. Yes.
Next question.
I know she has hard questions, so that was a good one.
No, I know you.
You do, and Marco's squirming while I stand up here. I'm Ed Romson. I'm Director of Global Customer Care for Plantronics. We have about 450 users. We've been running for about 2.5 years. I'd like you guys to address the distinction that you have between content and knowledge. It seems to me there's sort of a wall between those two, and it seems to me there shouldn't be. That's a party political part of this. But how do you perceive those two? And my agents need access to both. How are they going to do that?
Olivia, for you?
Yeah, I'll start. So we often have the question. We believe the products have different sweet spots. We see knowledge having a sweet spot in customer service and support because it will focus very much on the creation of short articles that you can read on the screen, that you can use while servicing some customers. And it will focus very much also on the distribution of that to masses and to have the right targeting, but to groups of people. We see the real focus of content as, first, very strong capabilities on building and collaborating on creating some PDF, PowerPoint, complex document, and probably a bigger sweet spot more in the sales market. So that said, you have an environment where you have some agents, and sometimes they need to use some more complex document that you have in content. And we see that, and we see very often some articles where you will have the solution in the screen in easy-to-read HTML, but you will have also for reference the PDF guide, or the zip file that you need to download, etc. And so we see content as becoming a source, a potential source for knowledge. So we have things in the roadmap for that. Today, the way you would do that is basically by adding a link to a content article. But later, we want to integrate a little bit more this process so that it's very simple, not managing links. You'll reference some content, and you'll attach some content to your articles.
That answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I think the other thing is that knowledge is certainly going to be better at making sure the customer or the person looking for knowledge gets the right answer, because it's kind of designed to do that in a way that content isn't. So it's certainly worth bearing that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a key part. Is knowledge base is, I got a problem, here's the answer to that problem, right? That's where the knowledge base piece would come in. Content becomes more like document management, document repository. There would be some overlap at some point, like product releases, user guides, and so on. But as Olivier said, there would be a place for you to either move all that to knowledge, or maybe just put the link between the two together. So you're working the knowledge base, but there's a link where you can refer to a document and content.
Okay, thanks for that question. I'll be over in a second. Next question? Somebody? I've got some prompts that may also help. Just some. These are sort of topics which may be of interest. These are things we often do get asked in these sessions. They also cover new functionality that you may have seen here today or in the winter release, or functionality that's been released since the last Dreamforce. So there's quite a lot in there, so maybe something there will prompt a question. Yes.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Collins. I'm Director of Customer Support and Implementation for a company called Passkey. Our software manages hotel reservations for conventions and meetings, such as Salesforce. Last year, the housing was all managed through Passkey. Not this year, but I'm not holding that against anyone up there. We're rather small. We're 60 to 70 employees. We have 35 Salesforce seats. We use it, and our sales team and the support teams are both very much on board. I tell everyone, I was like, I am the biggest drinker of the Salesforce Kool-Aid. But my question is, how do I get other departments to understand that they should be drinking the Kool-Aid too? I see so many other opportunities for our engineering team and product management and accounting teams to all integrate or have things built on Salesforce, and they just say, yeah, it's just sales and customer support. How do I get them on board?
Can I
too?
get your business card? Definitely, I'll work with you on this. No, I think what Mark said this morning, which was important, was we can bring Dreamforce to you, right? So the thing is, our name doesn't do justification even to our Service Cloud part of the business. Everybody looks at us as a sales tool. So as we talk to different customers, as we understand what they're trying to do as a process to work across different organizations, what they do on a daily basis, we can quickly come back and talk to them about the value of the platform and the benefits around that. I was just on a call right before this where the support exec was talking to me about the challenges they have with bug tracking. So it's like he was talking about his metrics, where he has a really good metrics on how the cases get resolved when they're part of his support organization. But as soon as he hands it off to Q&A, to QA organization, it starts messing up his metrics. He's not getting a response back. They tie an issue to a bug, never get a response back about that. An update happens, customer's never notified. So what I would recommend is after this session, we can talk about it. I will definitely work with your account team. The goal would be help us understand what are some of the challenges you face when you work with those organizations. Then we can have a custom Dreamforce type of presentation for you guys, and hopefully that should be helpful for them to see the value of what we can do for them.
Great.
Another fun way to do it is there are certain Salesforce services that don't really require a login, but that can allow you to sort of integrate other people into a process. Approval processes, for example, where you might have unlicensed people who don't have a license, but it sends them an email, and they can, in the approvals process, I don't know if you know this, but if you reply with the word approve, it'll work. Like, it'll actually just approve it. Stuff like that. So email services, approval processes, salesforce.coms sites, things like that, where you can add value to their lives, or you can do something like merge change requests to their QA system, if you like. Basically, add value to them add value to them in ways that they don't need to buy a license, if you can.
That's
and that'll start to get them in there. I've seen it happen before.
Have you got any spare licenses at all? Even one?
I'm sorry?
Have you got even one spare license right now?
No.
Oh, and the other thing, the easiest one, I forgot to mention, the easiest one is emailed and scheduled dashboards and reports.
Yes.
So, just schedule a dashboard to somebody, and they're like, hey, cool, I'm getting a report now,
Get them interested.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Ari Blum. I'm the CFO of a company called Inside Track. We're considering Service Cloud right now. We have 300 agents. We provide telephonic and online coaching to college students on behalf of the colleges to help those students retain term to term. So often we work with colleges with high dropout rates. So my question is, each of our agents, which we call coaches, manages a portfolio of students. So let's say, for example, 75 students over a period of time, like say 6 months. And that agent's responsible for maintaining bidirectional contact with each of those students through that 6-month period. Obviously, we need to assess metrics and such. So I have two questions. One is, can you talk a little bit about some examples of similar Service Cloud implementations with that kind of ongoing one-to-many but specific kind of closed portfolio of clients over a 6-month period? And two, can you talk specifically about forecasting work? So, how much agent time should it take to work those 75 students over those 6 months? How do we forecast the peaks and valleys of that work and what the results can be? Thanks.
So I'll start with this one. First and foremost, that's how our premier support group works on the one-to-many relationship. There's components of our support group that have named accounts, and they've got to stay in touch with those people. So we have a very similar setup on a portion of our support. And then the one that comes to mind is DeVry University uses us, and they're in the process of a business transformation, which is going to change the way they care for their students, basically, from cradle to grave. So they're embarking down a process to implement customer service and support, SFA, and Salesforce Knowledge to help manage that process in a very similar method. They want the touch points, they want to measure it, they want to be able to see when kids attrit, when they don't attrit, and what are the KPIs around it. Those are the two that I mentioned.
Yeah.
So.
I was going to say a little bit about in terms of predicting. I don't know if you've seen reporting capability. So a lot of times, it's really flexible. So you can actually basically use analytics for a period of time, let's say a week or something, and then extrapolate. And then once you're able to use the analytics to kind of see how you're going over time, and then load balance the work.
The other one that I just remembered was Rasmussen College. Right. They use us for customer service and support. And just the story that stood out in my head is they had no method of interaction tracking or case tracking prior to Salesforce. And now with it, what they want their reps to be is they want the reps to be the center of the student's life. So the example that they brought to the Chicago CloudForce was, they'd actually captured a case where a student called in and said, I'm lost, I'm in Portland, I don't have my iPhone on me, can you help me navigate to a local restaurant? And so the rep for Rasmussen said, yeah, sure, I'll just get on my computer, and where are you at? I'm on the corner of this and this, and they actually helped them act like a operator. And the woman who was running the Rasmussen call center thought this was absolutely fantastic because they provided value to the student, and now the student feels a better experience with Rasmussen.
And yeah, absolutely. I think it's Rasmussen College. Anybody here from Rasmussen College? I know they're at the event, actually. If you get a chance, you can definitely talk to them. So absolutely, we have customers. We're seeing a lot of success with this, where it's acquiring the students, making sure they're getting on board, getting them from interest in your offering to signing up. I think the biggest challenge, or the thing that you got to probably look at, is what does it take for you to acquire a new student, right? What does that process look like? Where's the handoffs, right? Maybe they fill out a form, then you evaluate it internally, then you can send back to the student saying, I need some more information and so on. Based on what that process is, you can have the workflow to define and say how the work needs to flow. Like if I send this thing to the customer, to the student, they should reply back within 24 hours. If they don't reply back within 24 hours, Now use the workflow to say, let's trigger the support rep to say proactively place a call. Put a dashboard metrics out there that says, here's the customers, here's the list of all the students that have not replied back to us, so proactively. So kind of once you identify the process, then you can identify how do you measure the success on each of those processes at each of those levels. And then finally, I think it's a mix of a carrot and a stick for your support, for your reps that are working, the call center reps that are working with them to say, hey, there's MBO side to you. If you maybe from step 3 to step 6 is the most critical point where the decision needs to be made within 5 days or so on. So there needs to be a big push for that. So there could be a carrot for that, for your reps to say why they need to be proactively working on it. And at the same level, it could be a stick as well to say, you have to do it, otherwise it's an impact, and we're looking at those metrics. The key is, as Chad said, you have dashboards, metrics built in that will let you see that information.
Stop by at the end. I want to give you my card because we've got a gentleman who runs our higher ed business, and we've seen more than a couple RFPs cross our desk recently for a very similar project for top 100 universities. So I'd like Mark to talk to you just a little bit about what he's seeing and why he's seeing it. I think it might be an interesting tie-in for you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Do you have customer portal licenses?
Do we have customer portal?
They're not using it yet. They're not using it.
He hasn't. He's still.
Okay. So it might be worth also talking at the end, in terms of the 6-month thing you're talking about, you could actually have this communication going backwards and forwards using our customer portal technology, and you can buy a number of logins rather than giving every student a personal login, so the cost would be pretty low. Yeah. So that could help with all this communication backwards and forwards. Okay.
Great question.
Next one. Who's going to get there first?
It's a race to the microphone.
I beat you.
So,
Okay, this is kind of a specific question. My name is Robert Rubin. I'm with a company called iStation in Dallas, and we have a reading intervention program targeted to K through 5, all internet delivered. Right now we're on professional right now. We're looking to upgrade to enterprise soon. One of the projects that I've got in front of me right now is to fold. Right now we just have sales using the tool. I want to fold in support, and part of that is going to be wiring up our support at salesforce.com, incoming email to case. It all looks very straightforward. But something that I learned this week, and I'd like to kind of clarify, make sure I understand it, is that email comes in to Salesforce, do an email to case. We do an auto response, so the customer gets a response that says, yes, we got your email, here's your case number. But I learned that outbound email counts against the daily limit on mail that's going outbound. And so my question is, if I've got somebody in sales who might be using some sort of outbound mail feature, do I get into a point where my customers don't receive these auto responses that say, hey, we got your case?
Well, it's possible, but probably unlikely. I mean, how many licenses did you say you have?
Well, right now we're small, but I'm thinking, okay, how does this scale in terms of best practices?
I mean, the default limit is 10,000 emails per day.
Oh, okay. Well, that kind of solves it. I was thinking it was a lot less.
But if you need to go over 10,000, he's your guy, everybody. Yeah. He can definitely increase those limits.
Yeah, so it's something that, on a case-by-case basis, we basically we enforce limits like that basically to keep people from using Salesforce as a spam tool.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty
well,
high.
the 10,000 was something we were talking like it was 1,000.
Oh, no.
So, all right. 10,000 is not a problem.
I think you're referring to mass emailing, which is 1,000 outbound mass emails per day from the system, which is a different category of email to what we're talking about.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Hi there. My name's Jean Chaney. I'm a New Zealander. I work for FCM Travel Solutions. We're very much a B2B. So a lot of what we hear, and this is my third Dreamforce, so a lot of what I hear is very much B2C. So in the true nature of B2B, we sell travel management services at a higher end. We have millions of travellers kept in a very separate system. We pull those and email market, excuse me, through third party and exact target partnering. My question is, our reps, we're 800 licenses in 13 countries across 9 brands and continuing to grow. One of my frustrations is from lead to account. All of our BDM sales reps work very much in that accounts opportunity environment. When we win a client, that's trading. The statuses we have, objects, workflows, we've got it. Our biggest frustration is brands selling over each other. So we make those reps take ownership. If an account is defected, or left us for any reason, God forbid, or we are unsuccessful, we have no way of getting rid of that anymore in the accounts area. So my question to the panel is have you had experience with a B2B who don't work on like a territory management? We have a wholesale org as well, very much work in territory, and that's okay. But in the corporate space, I need those reps to be able to get rid of it and say, you know what, that guy just doesn't like me. I'm never going to be able to sell to him, and put it back into the sales cycle somehow.
So they're a lead in this scenario?
No, they're accounts. They're fully fledged accounts,
Okay.
good records.
So one thing you can do that we do at Salesforce is, right, so you go on, when you are logging to Salesforce, you can sign up for a trial, like if you go to our website, and that's your trial account that gets created in Salesforce. And similarly, when you buy license from us, then you become an active customer of ours, where you're spending money with us, you've bought some products, right? So what we have done is we've flagged the accounts itself with a field that says, are they active, are they trial, is it a traded account? And we use that as a filter when you run those reports to say, I want to only look at accounts that are active in my territory.
Oh, don't get me wrong, we've segmented up the razoo, that's all covered. But my problem is when I've got 20 BDMs in London, so I've got 20 salespeople in the London office, they're unsuccessful, I need to keep, whereas if it was a lead, I could actually keep them generating those leads. In fact, we go green. If they don't have any activity on a lead for a while, we take it out of their ownership in the lead and whip it back to a queue, so we're continuously recycling if they're not doing anything. But my problem is once they've had that meeting, they take it from a lead into an account environment, I'm stuck. And so is the business. There is no way for them to transfer ownership back to a queuing system in the accounts environment.
Could you create a place? I see what you're saying. So instead of just reassigning it from one person to one person, you want to reassign it into a holding area that you're then able to enact logic against.
Correct.
Interesting.
I think what they could do is probably write an Apex trigger. You can probably write a trigger on the account, which basically looks at, behind the scenes, it could look at, accounts that have been inactive for a while, right? And then it can assign those accounts to an admin person, right? And then it could remove them from the visibility of certain people. So those accounts are only looked by admin people. So we did something very similar, for other customer, not for accounts, but the situation was that they had, they wanted to basically extend the functionality of recycle bin. When you delete records, it goes into your recycle bin and it stays there for only 30 days, right? They wanted those accounts, whatever records their reps were deleting, to be in recycle bin for much longer, or they wanted to basically retain, because 60 days down the line, the reps would figure out, oh, I deleted that, by mistake, and I want that data back. And then the whole process of getting data back was much longer and very costly, right? So we did something similar where we use Apex to, basically archive those records which were being deleted and assign them to an admin user which was not visible to any other user. And then so that we kept a copy of that record for a much longer time. And then if the user came back and said, okay, I want that record back, the admin user would just assign that record back to the...
Okay, I probably need to talk, because what our issue is, we've also got 9 brands. So I say we've got niche, so we deal in Kitsy and Campus, for example, that only deal with universities globally. So if we find that the BDM's got the wrong industry account or whatever it is, I actually want it to, like in the lead system, right, they can say don't want it, and because of the new criteria in the fields that are filled out, it automatically slides into the right brand, so the right BDM gets that. But in the accounts area, the only way I can think of is that we would Apex code and need about, for each country, because we have different country records per country, we would need to have another 8 or 9 licenses and Apex code that they dump into that license.
No, actually, I think
it's the only thing we could come up with. So I
have a related idea. I think it's a better idea. It's similar to what he said, though.
Yeah.
Not confident,
why don't you just do this? It is still Apex code, but basically, it's kind of a combination of their 2 ideas and then one of my own. So you put a status field on the account, right? So add a status field to the account, and on the account, if you say, so the agents can say, I don't want this. Your sales guys can say, I don't want this, right? Yeah. Then put a trigger on after update of account, which, if it finds that field has been activated, deletes the account, the contact, and the opportunity, and reconstitutes the lead and reassigns the lead so that it'll go right back through your assignment rule again. And what you end up with is a lead that's been thrown right back in the queue. That's equivalent to the account that he had created, but you're basically back where you started.
Okay, I'll get the boys on it. Thank you.
Okay. If you want more info on that at the end, you can always drop by and discuss it in more detail if you want. Question?
Hi, my name's Matt. I'm from SunGuard, or a division of SunGuard, and I have a few probably really easy questions for you. First one is what's the best way to report the duration by status of a case? So as it goes from open to development pending, back to open, back to customer pending. Right now my duration number is just from beginning to end, and it's a tough way to measure people.
Right. Well, there's what is the best way to do that? There's a case status history report. I think it's under case history. So when you make a report, you have the choice of like case, but then somewhere further down there's like a case history report. And there you can report on duration by stage. So there is a way to do that. If you want to do duration by stage by business hours, though.
So would it sum up the total minutes so it goes back and forth, open, pending? Would it sum up the amount of minutes that are open?
In that case. Don't you guys already have this? I swear I talked to you guys at SunGuard. There's an App Exchange app that I wrote called Case Age and Business Hours that will do exactly that. So, and your business hours can be 24/7 if that's how you work, but it adds 3 buckets to the case. One of them is total case age and business hours, and the other 2 are what's called time with support and time with customer. Time with customer is like in an on-hold status, and time with support is like in an open status, what you would call it. So I think that would give you exactly what you're looking for.
Okay.
And one thing that's...
What's that? The app is called Case Age and Business Hours.
mcastellana@salesforce.com. Right?
Yeah.
Just shoot him an email if you can't find it.
That's what I need, more emails to make that happen.
So it's on the App Exchange, you can download it, and I think it actually does the calculation when you close the case.
It does the calculation when the case is finally closed.
Yeah.
So that's when it fills the buckets. And it's open source, too. And in fact, I have a blog post that corresponds to it back in August 2008 that tells you how to customize it for your needs. So we have some guys like I know the folks at TD Ameritrade took that code, and they wanted to calculate not just like time open, but they wanted to calculate time with tier 3, time with tier 2, time with tier 1. So in my blog post, I went through the code and I detailed how to do that, and they actually took that, and they even took it a step further and they started doing their own calculations with it. So in any case, out of the box, that's what that package will do for you.
Great.
And I think one thing that's important about that is the tool is there to measure it. It's the process you put in place, what you tell your reps, and how they need to follow it. So that's definitely, you need to help them understand if you're sending an email, if you're receiving an email, how do you start tracking that on the case itself?
Okay. We don't have a knowledge base built yet, but we're going to start doing that. I sat in a session that talked about the articles, and I had known from the past about solutions. At a high level, can you give me an overview of the pros and cons of each and which you would recommend for support?
Olivia?
I would recommend definitely the knowledge base.
Of course.
That's his baby, by the way, knowledge base, right?
No, so last year Salesforce acquired Instranet to build a performant knowledge base. Solution was already there, but solution is like give you some solutions, but it doesn't have all the flexibility you want to manage the full process of a knowledge base. As I said, the knowledge base needs to be maintained, so you may want to have workflow, you may want to have more analytics on how articles are used. You may want to also expose it to all of the channels, and especially to the site channels, if you want to have a self-service website using the sites technology. And all of that are key differences that comes with the knowledge base, as much more targeted way to target the right users with the right knowledge base. So my recommendation would be obviously the knowledge base. Then if your need is just to have simple solutions that you can attach to cases, and your rhythm of maintenance of this solution is not huge, then maybe solution is enough for you.
How many articles do you have in your Oh, 0, okay, great. So it depends a little bit on that as well.
Yeah.
How many articles?
Both knowledge bases are really good for 0 articles.
Exactly.
I think the big part to look at that is really the article management piece, right? So how are you going to build the content that is going to be part of your knowledge-based strategy, right? Is it one person that's going to just submit it and you are confident enough that the person who submits that knowledge-based article has done all the right things and has got all the right content, so you can just take it, expose it out. If that's the kind of thing that you have, then solutions is a good fit. But if you're talking about a complete knowledge management, article management process to say, I want people to submit articles, but I want to evaluate, I have a team that evaluates. In that team, I might also have marketing to make sure the content is right, it needs to get exposed out. It's going to be customer facing on our website to make sure the data is right. That's where knowledge becomes a big difference. Makes it a big differentiator for you. Second part is really the analytics and metrics side, right? At the end of the day, you can build a big knowledge-based articles. You can have 10,000, 20,000 articles, but you have to go back and look at how is it being used, who is using it, what is the feedback you're getting, what data is getting stale, what data needs to get updated. If that's and that's where knowledge truly helps us differentiate from a solution piece. So as everybody said, if you're starting with a knowledge-based strategy, then solution is as good a fit as knowledge. But if your long-term strategy is, hey, we're going to grow this where I want 20% of our cases to be deflected by knowledge-based. I want knowledge-based to be part of every case management process that we have. We have a KCS certified kind of a process in place. If you look at that vision, then definitely start with knowledge. You can definitely migrate from solutions to knowledge. But if you're going to start with the process and if your long-term vision is what ties to knowledge, then start with knowledge at that point.
Just adding to that, of course, all the new things, the social media, that will integrate with knowledge, but probably won't integrate with solutions. So if you're buying into that future vision, particularly with the half-price offer at the moment on knowledge, you might say, well, that's worth going for.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I mean, all the things we are, all the new capabilities we're building right now, we're already tying them to knowledge. Knowledge being the key. So we type, Twitter or Facebook or Answers, for example. All those integrations are really going to knowledge. So that's in terms of an investment. All in terms of new features, we're making them in knowledge. Solutions is kind of is going to be we're going to keep maintaining it, but all the kind of investment integration is really going to go into knowledge. So it's in terms of the future, that's probably the better solution.
Great question. Next one.
Hey, I'm Michael Famelli from Initiate Systems. We have about 400 users, and we're in the software business. Just to follow on a little bit to the knowledge discussion you were having, will there be some kind of capability to actually, we want to move forward with knowledge. We've got probably a couple of thousand solution articles now. Will it be something to migrate those to knowledge?
No, there's a service offering that we have to migrate in just a few days from all your solutions to knowledge.
Okay.
So absolutely, we have a tool and a process to move solutions to knowledge. The guy sitting right next to you on the left there is the guy in Pro Services that has built a package that helps you. They will actually do it for you, and he can provide you more details about that, or your account executive can provide more information on that.
And on I think Dan's question earlier, is there when you go in and search, if I have a customer coming into my customer portal and I want him to deflect, I want to deflect cases, is it going to be able to search across content, knowledge, possibly solutions if we still have those going on?
So I'll start there. Very soon.
Okay.
Very soon. The idea is, yes, you want to have a search and you want to have one unique page of results where you have the result from your knowledge base, the result from content, the result from the community also, from answers. The idea is really to give only one search entry for your customers and to have all that. And that should be available. You should be able to do that for the spring release.
Just clarify, gentleman mentioned solutions in his long list, whereas you didn't. So is solutions covered in that or not?
Yeah, that will be, you'll be able to build that. I don't know if solution will be part of the default UI that you'll have, but you'll be able to build it if you want.
Go ahead. Just one more point I wanted to make on that. So a difference between knowledge and solutions in the customer portal. So one thing that I don't know if you know, knowledge actually uses this new concept called dimensions, or I should call it data categories now. And so the idea is that even before, so if you've got a knowledge base, let's say 50, well, you've got 2,000 articles, let's say. What dimensions do is it pre-filters it before you even do the search to the part of the knowledge base that's relevant to the customer, right? Based on, and these data categories are, you can configure them, whether it be product or customer segment geography, whatever you might set up. So the great thing is that if you've got 2,000 articles, before even the customer searches, it might narrow down to maybe 50 articles that are relevant to that customer, and then when he types in 3 keywords, he sees that. And so that personalization happens in the customer portal because we know the customer, and that would be a big difference between solutions. So if you go and type in 3 keywords in solutions, it would literally search 2,000, and it may return quite a lot of results, whereas with knowledge, it could return maybe 2 results because it's only searching against maybe 50 solutions that are relevant to that customer.
And the last thing I want to add on this topic is the most common case we have with this kind of requirements is to have knowledge and answers, because it gives you on one page is the corporate knowledge, and if you don't find what you want in the corporate knowledge, then you have the community knowledge in answers, and all that is in the same page, and you're mixing all of the knowledge that is available for your customers in one page, and that's the most common case that we have.
You guys are based out of Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, first of all, say hi to Ensign and Colin Rizzler for me. They used to work for me. But second of all, we have a lot of knowledge expertise in Chicago, so we'd be more than happy to. I think you're probably a corporate account, but if we connect with you afterwards, we'd be more than happy to come out and give you a pretty good tour of it.
Okay, that'd be great.
And I think I just wanted to add one more thing, right? So more and more people are talking about like federated search concept, right? You go in one place, but when you search across different things. Right? It could be solutions, cases, answers and content and so on. Definitely that's something we can do, right? With the whole API, you have access. You can build that whole search page out. Pretty simple, straightforward. But coming back to what Chad said, it's pretty important to figure out the best practice, right? Your customers coming in there searching for some information, right? Where you have control, where you understand who the customer is, what they have purchased, what they might be asking. That's where knowledge base comes in. Once you start opening it up to these other things like go search any case, start searching customer community, it becomes a search engine where it just depends how the search is going to show up, right? And is that the right answer? Is that the right experience you want to look at? So while you can definitely do the federated search with the API and build it all out there, really look at the business. And as Mike said, right, have our guys look at you and look at your process as well. Does that really make sense for you on the business side to put it in the portal? Will that drive adoption, or would it actually drive the other way around?
Okay. On a different topic, thanks for all that. On a different topic, as far as case record types is concerned, we kind of move towards having our support department support multiple different groups within the company. So we created case record types to delineate those between each other. The challenge that I've had is that we have one ability to send configure a case comment notification and a case close notification. Is there any plans to put that in by record type so I can change what I'm saying to people based upon record type?
Well, one way that you can do that today is so in your support settings, take away the templates for case close notification and case comment notification, and replace that with workflow rules and workflow email alerts that have the templates, for the relevant record type. So, yeah, that would be the way to do that.
Thank you. Great question.
Hi, I'm Larry Willis from Black & Decker. We're a new Salesforce customer. I have a question about when, as a rule of thumb, when you should use cases versus activities. And then if you use in 2 different modes, how do you bring them back together from reporting to keep that continuity together?
Well,
you start after.
Okay. I mean, the way I see it, and hopefully Milburn agrees with me, is that the way I see it is that a case is like a process, right? So a case is something that it represents an issue, right? Whereas an activity represents an interaction, right? So an activity is a single phone call, single email, a single chat, or somebody walked in, something like that, right? Whereas the case represents the actual issue that you were talking about. So I think when you look at it that way, it tends to make reporting a little bit easier because then it's compartmentalized. It's like, here's my interactions, here's where all my interactions are coming from. And you can do that, and you can say, it helps you also count things like first call resolution.
So you can pull the 2 together if you go with activities for certain type of transactions and cases?
Well, I mean, you can. I mean, personally, for me, especially if you're trying to measure first call resolution, I think it's easier if you do have cases like the top level object activities under it, because then if you see a closed case with only one activity under it, that's first call resolution, stuff like that.
That's a frequent question we get. Marco's spot on from what we see in the field. If you take an example, and we're lucky enough to have Boobin here, who ran the TD Ameritrade project, that was figuring out they were moving from an interaction-based system to a case management system, but we still didn't want all the weight of a case for just what are your hours or something basic like that. So we had to blend activities with cases. And the heart of it is exactly what Marco mentioned, the life cycle of it and the logic around it. But there are some other factors, and we'd be more than happy to sit down and look at some of those and talk to you about it.
Yeah, I do think for consistency and reporting purposes, in the case of somebody like what these guys were doing here, one thing that you can do is make quick, what's the word I'm looking for? Like one and done case buttons, right? So okay, I took an interaction, I took a call, I don't really need to do anything about it. One done, click it, I'm done, move on, right? But then you still get a case out of it, so that way you can do you can do your trending, you can do your reporting. It's very consistent that way. So personally, I'm a fan of creating cases for every issue, even if it is one and done.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hi, Ted Campanello, Standard & Poor's Indices. I manage a team of about 10 client services folks globally located. It's a pretty technical question in terms of email to case. What's the best practice for implementing email to case? Right now, we get a majority of our inquiries via email, and we use the Outlook plugin to move cases to Salesforce, but obviously that's not the best solution. One of the things we think about, how do you filter out spam? How do you deal with where you don't have a contact, things like that? What are the best practices there?
So I'm going to take that, which a lot of these topics, so the questions that you asked, and there's a few of them, right? You asked a few questions at a time, and most of them are covered in the blog. So these are questions that I get pretty commonly, right? First of all, about spam. We don't do anything about spam. We're not really an anti-spam company, and so we are making an assumption that the email box that you're forwarding to email the case has been de-spammed already, if you so choose. Now, because we have customers also that don't want to filter out spam because they're afraid they're going to miss a legitimate issue, and that is a concern. I mean, it's something that you have to take into account. Using the Outlook connector for the emails, that's got to be painful. So I would definitely recommend it. Yeah. Now, as you may know, we introduced at the beginning of this year, we introduced on-demand email to case, right? So whereas in the past we used to have a little Java client that had to sit there and connect to your Exchange server and all that stuff, now it's much simpler than that. We will generate an inbox. You forward the emails to that inbox, and that's all you got to do. And email to case will handle it. It'll make the cases. It'll thread emails into it, stuff like that. If you look at my blog entry for February, so if you go to blogs.support.com, I'm actually going to get up and show this. So give me just a second.
Or mcastellina@salesforce.com.
Yeah.
He uses Salesforce. He uses email to case. They come into him, and
You're going to need spam filtering now, Marco.
Yeah.
Okay. blogs.salesforce.com/support. We have lots and lots of best practices here. Most recently, I had assigning cases according to email addresses they originated. My policy is that if I get the same question from 3 different customers, then I put it on the blog. And, this is obviously searchable, but I think I remember back in February, I wrote this, new in Spring 09, email to case as a service, which covers actually just about all the questions that you just asked. Okay. So definitely look up email to case on this blog, blogs.salesforce.com/support, and hopefully this will answer almost all of them. We have an earlier entry back in November, which just covers best practices, a 2-part entry actually, that covers best practices around email to case in general.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay.
And we would love to get your feedback here as well. If you guys are building cool stuff on your side to support your business processes, share with us. Put it up there. Like, we are a community. We put content in there. We need your feedback. We also need content that you're building and make this community more richer up there.
And if you want to contribute something to the blog, it's happened before. The customers have sent me stuff that's gone to the blog. So you're welcome to do so if you got something cool that you want to share. Do I have a Starbucks card? He's got. Do I get a Starbucks card? I don't think so. They don't give me any of this stuff. More email. Yeah, more email. That's what I need.
I think it's email-based vouchers, though, I think.
Hi there. Brent Krimke's the company I'm with is Laserband. We specialize in laser-generated barcoded medical wristbands. The issue that we run into is we're currently only using Salesforce on the domestic side, and we have every hospital that we target as an account in Salesforce. But sometimes we'll have certain initiatives for like different departments of a hospital, and we're wanting to set up something like a campaign. As you guys know, in order to set up a campaign, you have to have a contact. I was curious at what kind of workaround that you guys might run in, that maybe you've seen, or the one thing I get when I've asked this is set up dummy contacts at the account level, but it's just be overwhelming to manage that data.
Well,
curious if you had any other workarounds.
So what is it that you want to set up a campaign to do exactly?
Well, basically just for our sales team to say, okay, these are the hospitals under this initiative that you need to call.
Oh, I see. So,
but we don't, we might not know who the contact is because it could be a different department that we've never, contacted before, and we don't want to put somebody else's name as the contact to tie that back because it'd be the wrong department that they're targeting within a hospital. So
that's a different question than I've ever heard before.
We've looked at using leads, but I don't know. Sometimes we're afraid that just goes back to the data integrity and that accounts might not be merged correctly.
Yeah, campaigns. So campaigns are really intended primarily for email and secondarily for sort of dial down lists of people to contact, and it is intended to be people, not necessarily accounts, which is why it has that restriction. One option is just to make a custom object. Have you considered just making a custom campaign object that would link to account?
Yeah, we've tried. We've looked into that. Gosh, I can't remember the issue we ran into.
Another option, the whole the dummy contact thing is not a bad idea. You're right about managing dummy contacts. If I were you and I was if that's something that you need to do frequently, I would probably write a little Apex routine. So first of all, I'd have a trigger on account that would just create a dummy contact for every account, and then I'd also call it from batch Apex so I could just once, so that I can run it on all accounts, right? So that every account will get a dummy contact once, and then for all future accounts, it just calls that code to create that. So, that would probably be what my inclination would be if you wanted to use the standard campaign object.
Is there anything else? other than a campaign that you can think of just for targeting a group of accounts?
Well, a list view, right?
Yeah. What's that?
List views.
List view, yeah.
You can create a list view with a set of filter criteria that will define what your accounts are. That's effectively what a campaign is. In a way, it's kind of a glorified list view.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
We also have a series of partners that extend our marketing and sales functionality that we work with on a number of large opportunities. So I'd be curious to see how they've tackled that, because it sounds like something that one of those guys would have tackled. So they might, while they offer a lot more, they might be able to address just that line item, and they might have a creative way of doing that, especially since a lot of it's platform-based.
Okay. Do you know any, who I can?
Yeah, stop by afterwards, and I'll be more than happy to point you in the right direction.
Great. Thank you.
I've actually implemented the solution that Marco mentioned using the Apex, and it worked pretty well. So you've got unknown contact at company name. The fact is, when you actually get through to a company on the phone, eventually you are going to speak to a human being, because companies don't buy things, people do, and then you just modify it with richer data.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laurel Perry with WageWorks, and we manage tax-deferred spending accounts. And we have Salesforce for sales and marketing, but we're considering implementing the Service Cloud. And I was wondering what your recommendations are for and the level of difficulty involved with importing records. We've spent quite a bit of time building out our knowledge base in another application. And so I was wondering about what your recommendations are for importing both knowledge base records and case records into Salesforce from another application.
Start at the top of the process, and I'll take care.
So tomorrow there's a session being held from 9 to 10 where one of our partners, RailPage, is going to talk about them migrating from Siebel to Salesforce, and that's a view of an organization taking years of data and then deciding how they want to migrate. The biggest thing I think is for you to understand and look at what is the key data that you need, how does that data map to your processes, and how much of that data that you have in the system you want to migrate to Salesforce. And then, what we can help you with is what the data model should look like in Salesforce. Is it standard? Is it custom? What needs to be built out there, and so on. So it's a mix of both. You have to look at the data that you have today that you want to bring up, and then we can help you say where it fits into Salesforce. I guess you guys can talk more about best practice and what you have seen in the past.
Yeah, from the services side, we've got packages and offerings that we can specifically help you just with that. But I would say from an overall component of any project, the data migration part is not usually more than 5 or 10% of the overall time and complexity of a project. So we don't view it as something that is on the top end of the complexity scale.
Thank you.
By the way, we love WageWorks. That's it.
That's true. We've got time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions maximum. Yep.
Speed dating, go quick.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kiran Jirani, and I'm from S&P Industries. And I'm from the service side over there, one of the end users, and I actually have two questions. S&P has around 1,000 licenses, but our group, I think, uses between 10 to 15 licenses. My first question on entitlements. We have around 1,000 products that we support around the globe. When I say products, it's indices, and we keep launching a lot of new products. Now, to make it easier for our service reps to actually classify when we get a query what product it is, we have a tiered hierarchy. So the first question is that right now, how easy it is to add new product, because one of the frustrations which we face right now is that every time we launch a new product, we need to go in and add to the pick list over there. And the turnaround time that we get is days to weeks, which we realize should not be the case. So what kind of entitlement that you offer, that you have to be an admin to support those things, or can an end user also be able to go and add stuff like that?
I'm sorry, are they adding products or assets, or what are they adding exactly?
They're adding products.
Or entitlements?
We want to add products, but the question was that what kind of entitlement do you have, or do you need to be able to add such products to the pick list?
Oh, so you're asking about what kind of profile permission do you need to add products?
Right, yeah.
That's actually at the profile level. You'll find we have what we call CRUD, create, read, update, delete.
Okay.
And to add products, or assets for that matter, you just need to enable, you need to enable create, at least create on product, right? You can enable update as well, right? So.
Right. Then I have a follow-up question to that.
Yep.
Is the thing is, because it's enterprise-wide license and we have 1,000 users, so the thing is, if they give a create, they can't give a create to everybody in the company.
No, the way that so every user in Salesforce so there's a profile, right? And every group of users has a profile. And that profile defines what permissions that set of users gets. And so you would create a profile that allows create and update access to product, and you would give that profile to the set of users, only to the set of users that you want to actually be able to mess with your products, basically, and not to everybody else.
Okay. Are you using our products functionality, or is this a products pick list you're talking about?
I'm talking about the products pick list that was customized for, I think, by one of the admin users. So it's not. I realize what you're saying, but the question was, can you give access to a particular set of users only to allow create the correct privileges for certain products with a certain pick list within the whole set of
So actually,
options?
I misunderstood what you were saying. I didn't realize it was a pick list. So I think pick list still requires customized application. Is that right?
Yeah, the only way around that would be is if the object that you're customizing is a custom object, you can use what we call delegated administration, which allows a certain group of users to customize that object, but not the rest of the application.
So there is a way to do that.
Potentially, I need to probably understand more about your sharing model to make sure that's actually going to work. We can talk at the end if you want.
We'll do that. Okay, good. And my second question was, as I mentioned earlier, we have a tiered structure of selection. So what happens is that sometimes we have to select more than one product, because when a customer calls, they may be inquiring for more than one product family or one particular product. And the thing is that if you only allow one selection at a time, you may have to create multiple cases for the same question. Now, the thing is that what we were told earlier was that if you allow multiple selections at a tiered structure, you actually lose the capability of reporting that information in your reports and creating analytics. So is that something true, or there's a workaround for that? Did you my question?
So I think to just answer your question, there is a couple of options. Right? We have the dependent pick list where you can say, I'm picking the product family. As an example, I'm picking laptop. Below that says here's a different laptop version. I can pick that. When I pick that, the third option could be tell me the operating systems. Right? So that's a dependent pick list. The parent is driving the child options in there. The other option we give you is the multi-select pick list, as you were saying, where you can say, by the way, this customer has a laptop and a desktop, so you select both of those options together. I don't know the answer about reporting, how reporting works after that.
It's a little bit, so basically in a multi-select pick list, and so I think what you're referring to is a multi-select pick list.
Right.
If you have a multi-select pick list, and I don't think you could do dependent multi-select pick lists, can you? No. So that's one thing, is if you have dependent pick lists, you won't be able to make them dependent on each other with multi-selects, at least not yet.
Right. That's okay.
What's that? But also, with regard to reporting on multi-select pick lists, basically, if you have a multi-select pick list and you select two options, then it kind of makes a string where it concatenates the two options together. So they're still reportable as long as you're using contains and not equals in your reports.
And then from the services side, Procter & Gamble was up here on the session before this, and we made an extraordinarily complex product hierarchy schema, almost an MDM, if you will, for P&G's millions of products across hundreds of countries, across different kinds of packages. I think it was actually 14 tiers deep. Right. So depending on, I mean, that was obviously a dedicated engagement, but the out-of-the-box functionality can take you to here, and if you do need to extend it, I've never seen a more complex product hierarchy, and we're able to render that in Salesforce. So I'd be more than happy to get into that with you.
I don't think ours is the most complex hierarchy. Okay. It's just the volume of data to read it. So.
But if it is something that, if it's something where you need to make frequent inserts and deletes to it, things like that, that might actually warrant making like an object, a custom object that it represents your product hierarchy like P&G did, because it definitely eases that. I mean, significantly, right? Then you can apply things like CRUD, and it's as simple as that to allow people to do those inserts for you. Because pick lists are not really intended for that purpose, as you've discovered.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, time's just about up. I'd like to thank, first of all, the panel for answering all your questions, but more importantly, yourselves for providing the questions in the first place. So thanks for your participation. Just some advice and resources. So again, some of these things have been mentioned, but the blog, our website, the community site, Salesforce Help and Training, even YouTube, you can search. We've got a whole channel on YouTube now with help and training for Salesforce, in like watchable videos. So there's plenty of materials out there, so please take a look at some of these, and obviously visit the campground as well. There's quite a very important session tomorrow, which I'll recommend. I was at it this morning, which is tomorrow morning. I think if you want to know about the future roadmap of the Service Cloud, that's the one in red, but all these other sessions are also still available in this particular track. And a few adverts, or messages, I think, as you call them over in the States. So there's an online survey. If you complete that in the lobbies, there are some iPods to be won. Again, go and see our own Service Cloud call center in the campground. That's certainly worth seeing or communicating with by any of these methods. Again, knowledge is half price at the moment, so if you're trying to decide whether to go solutions or knowledge, now could be a good time to go for it because it's half price. And that's available to existing customers and new. And finally, we also have a product now with Cisco where your whole call center, the actual telephony, is in the cloud as well as using the application. And you can check it out at booth 1115 in the campground as well. Okay, so thanks for your time and enjoy the rest of the Dreamforce.